then go to bed every night, and then next thing I know, day older. Day older. Yeah, right, a day older and deeper in debt. So there you go, yeah.
Okay, I think we've got everybody on board.
Okay.
I'm following Bob Dylan's footsteps. Kimberly, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think in slides,
I'm
it's
gonna
kind of
call
going
this
the wrong
meeting
direction.
to order.
Say again?
Calling the meeting to order. It's little after 3:30, so we've got a quorum. Tanya, Chris, Janet, Pat, Lenny, Paul, Kimberly, and Bert Leggett is our esteemed guest and presenter.
Briefly.
Our first call to order is the old business consideration of the May 13th, 2025 minutes. Thank you again, Paul, for working on that.
Well, there's one thing that Lenny had some corrections and I just have not had a chance to do this because Lauren had a mild heart attack and had open heart surgery. So I've been,
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So
she just came home 2 days ago, so I had no time.
Oh, my. How's she doing?
She's doing all right, but it's a pretty sick woman at this point.
So sorry to hear that.
So I'll make the changes, Lenny, that you want.
Yeah, they were just some minor stuff.
Right.
Good.
I'll clean that up.
Okay,
Thanks for the changes you made. I appreciate.
We want to, vote on those at the next meeting, or?
Yeah,
Or do you
probably.
wanna,
Yeah, let's do that.
why don't we vote on them now? And
should be amended?
Oh, okay,
Probably.
You can do it, you vote on it subject to the amendment that Lenny
Right.
suggested.
good idea.
Can I hear a,
I'll make that motion,
Motion.
whatever it was.
I'll second it.
For Lenny's. Minutes.
Right, corrections, they were just minor things like changing the name of the Lake Association, my Lake Association.
Great.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Our first order of business is we have Bert Leggett here. He's been here, one of our great partners in the DLA and comes to many of our meetings, and he's gonna talk about the septic systems and what DLA's role is and what they envision and how we could help and what we could learn from it.
So the biggest thing you've heard me say over and over again is education. So again, we're slated to send out 2 flyers to everybody in Belgrade, Rome area. It just says, you got septic, Carol's got to come up with writing. You can check your septic, that kind of thing, to build awareness that way.
Is that on in the shoreline zone, or is that?
Everybody.
So everybody's, all the
Everybody.
mail recipients basically.
Yep, any resident.
Okay, any
That
resident.
way we're educating everybody.
Any resident of what?
Belgrade and Rome.
Belgrade and Rome.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about
Okay,
the-
and when is that flyer coming
I
out?
gotta ask Carol, I'll find out tonight.
All right,
Yeah.
great.
How about the non, the seasonal people?
Yep, we're gonna reach them too.
Okay.
Carol knows how,
That'll-
I'm just going with, gonna let it up to Carol.
But what does
right?
this flyer say?
I don't know yet. It's gonna say, have you pumped your septic? You should be
Oh.
pumping. It's an education.
It's, okay.
It's
And
just to
a
build
suggestions
awareness.
of what you
I'll
should be
send it
doing.
out twice to get people thinking. The other thing we're doing, Richard LaBelle, we just joined the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce in Waterville.
Yeah,
And Richard is putting out, we get a free insert in the flyer for joining. So one side has a raffle on it, the other has all the things you should be doing on the lakes. Richard just came up with that. It's gonna be showing that at our board meeting tonight.
Nice.
So that'll get inserted, that'll go to everybody in Kennebec Valley, basically, but
That's the younger Richard?
little, I won't say what it is. It's a special nickname, but it's recorded, I won't say it. Anyway, yes, the younger Richard, he's about
great.
30, 40.
Yeah.
So, which is young compared to all of us, but
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. But then, so we're doing that. We'll probably do the 4th of July parade again this year. I don't know if we'll have a septic truck like we did last year, but we'll probably put a sign, if you pumped your septic, blah, blah.
That's a good idea.
When we do the raffle tables, we talk about septic as well as the other things that people should be doing. Our newsletter's got articles on.
Wait, so this isn't the boat parade, this is,
No, this is the street parade.
and where is that down?
That starts in
Main
Rome,
Street?
goes through town of
Belgrade.
Belgrade Lake Village.
Oh,
Yep.
Right on the 4th of July, early to mid
Busy.
afternoon.
Yeah,
Busy
starts at
down
4
there
o'clock.
for the
4
fall.
o'clock.
Usually starts at 4 o'clock at the old Rome Farms and goes through the village.
Yeah.
So we'll do something, we're gonna be doing something with that. We continue the newsletter, having articles in that about septic. And again, at the raffle table, talk about it with people. And then we put money, budget money, and we're giving it to Seven Lakes Association. I put in the budget up to 10 grand to get a septic intern. We thought it would be a Colby intern, but instead it's gonna be an intern from University of Maine at Farmington who has GIS experience. Global, what is it? Global,
Information system.
Yeah. so,
okay, wait, so you budgeted 10, I'm
Okay.
presenting on to the Lakes thing, and this is really good news.
okay.
At the Lakes Conference, so
Yeah.
I really wanted, so tell me again, so what
We
is?
budgeted $10,000
Uh-huh,
towards supporting an intern hired by Seven Lakes Association.
Seven Lakes Lions.
Alliance, sorry,
septic
get that
intern,
wrong all the time.
And what are they gonna do?
The intern is going to work, basically go into the town of, at least Rome and Belgrade, maybe we can get to Mount Vernon. And we already got permission from the towns and go into the database and basically categorize the systems. I mean, Seven Lakes Alliance, sorry, I'm gonna get it right this time. Well, it's got some criteria, but it's really saying when the septic system was
Bill,
built. What, any updates to it, and that way we have a database, so then we know what the problem could be.
Yeah.
Okay, we say there's a problem, but we're not really,
we don't
Sure,
know, they're
but-
actually,
but so we need, before we can do anything, you gotta have your information, so that's what I've been pushing. Is we're gonna build the database, and that's available to the code enforcement officers of the towns. It's really to help out the code enforcement officer, giving them supplemental help. So, because they don't have time to do this research themselves, so building out that database.
oh,
That's
and
great.
what organization initiated this that you're part of?
Belgrade Lakes Association,
Oh, the BLA,
the BLA, yeah,
okay,
Maine's oldest lakes association, founded in 1908. Preserve and protect. Great
okay.
Long ponds.
I don't know what ours is and when we started, so I'm sorry, I don't have a rebuttal.
We're the oldest, no one's older, so you can't do this, sorry.
But Bert, who is supervising the intern?
That would be Stuart Cole will be supervising the intern.
Okay,
He's got a lot to do, okay.
Yep,
Yeah, he's pretty busy these days.
yeah,
That's good, that's kind of a big first step we need to do.
it is a big first step.
Yeah.
Before you know what the problem is, you gotta figure out what the problem is.
Well,
The problem is where.
And they'll be able to tell from the maps?
You'll be able to tell from the records.
But also, I guess about, it was 3 or 4 years ago, the Dave Roque and Jen Jesperson did a presentation on looking at septic tanks in a small town on a very small pond.
Yeah,
And what they discovered was that there weren't that many septic tanks that needed repair.
it might not be.
A few of them were causing a lot of damage.
Right.
So it may not be a big
It
burden
may not.
after all.
There may be just a few. I do know Hans has seen, one, it was in Rome, so he couldn't do anything about it. But he was taking the CEO from Roma, that was basically just a cesspool.
Right.
Wow,
It's over by the Castle Island area, I believe.
really?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Ooh,
No, there was one at my cousin's house that, luckily is now, and we didn't know it, and they were just. Sort of like drinking yourself to death, running on fumes type of family, and, so they sold to my other cousin, and they've just. And now they're pumping it back to a big, bench field, and so that's, but there's stuff like that going on.
You'll be surprised how many on Great Long Ponds are just the cesspool. And they were cesspools before there was laundry and stuff going. Now think about what's going on.
Right.
It's not just the fecal matter, it's the phosphorus from the laundry potentially, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what you have to think about it. And I've heard stories of over on Salmon McGraw, someone one time made a comment, yeah, I've seen the stuff floating down the lake.
Oh, my God.
Not poop, I'm talking foam from like.
Yeah.
The washing machines and stuff. So I think it was Lenny's house, no, just kidding. No.
Really?
But someone told me about that, and I think it was more down in the McGraw part, and then North Pond, the reason why we reached out specifically, well, obviously, Seven Lakes Alliance. But they did this over on North Pond, either last year or the year before, I think it was the year before, where they did a septic study around North Pond. To get an idea of, what the problems,
Uh-huh.
so they have some
Bert.
experience.
Bert, is there any further information about using caffeine as a detector?
No, we haven't gone down that path. I wanted to build a database first, and then I think we'll look at it, but I've heard it kind of poo-pooed from, I can't remember, I think it was someone from Seven Lakes. And I said, no, it doesn't really work, so I kind of want to, I've been just concentrating for now on getting the database done. Then
Okay.
I think we need to probably go out and do some testing. If you see something that's pre 1996 or
Yeah, so if we
1974,
can identify places that
Yeah.
don't have any record at all,
right?
let's say,
And then you go
or.
out, then
Yeah.
you maybe go test the water
When you
and
look
see.
at it, then we have to sort of figure out how that next step should.
That's,
be.
yeah, but first we wanna know what we've got for a problem. Then you can say, well, how much is it? Is it gonna be $100,000 problem to go into this, or is it gonna be $10 million? We don't know.
Right.
Till we have that database. And then we don't really know until we actually start testing. So I see that education and, not being in people's faces, but just educating people about the problem, so there's awareness. Then coming up with a database, seeing what potential problem there could be. And then we go to the next step, which is maybe we go out and test some of the systems.
Yeah,
But we get buy-in from the people and say, yeah, it's okay, come test it, because we're concerned about it.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, and you have a special problem on Great Pond with some of the soil.
The soils, especially over on the west, east and north side, where that sand is.
Yeah.
Because remember when Dave Rowe came in, I was here for that.
Yeah.
He said it's just like a
Short
funnel
circuit.
right in, because it
Yeah.
just goes.
Right through the sand.
Right through the
Yeah.
sand.
Because it's
Right.
sand, or it's either sand or bedrock, one of those two, and it will just send that right down
Right
into
through there, yeah,
the water
so, yeah,
or into the lake.
yeah, will your, the research show what those are? I don't know.
I
if it
think,
will.
we'll be able to see the systems first,
Yeah.
and then I'm not, but then I think we could take. Especially if this guy's I think it's a guy, maybe, well, doesn't matter, the GIS stuff, we could then look.
With the
and overlay it,
GIS
say,
stuff, you
okay,
have to
here's-
find, yeah,
Yeah.
Here's the one pre-1974, where's it located? And then we have that map of the
Yeah.
soils, and then well, that's probably not good.
right, yeah, well, right, and the bill that was just passed requires new systems to take that all into account, but that's only going forward.
Right, going forward. So-
Yeah,
But these places tend to, turn over time, so we'll see.
Bert, what's the timing on your intern? When you think this is gonna happen?
Good question.
I'd like them to start next week.
Are you seriously?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk, the next, Chris Mons is away, but Stuart might be at our meeting today and I'll have a chance, I'm going there next and chit chat if he's there. But if not, beginning of next week, I'm having a meeting with Chris
Sorry.
and Stuart, and we're gonna come up with a plan. So ASAP,
so how long, how much, is 10 grand enough, I guess? is the-
I think so. So
get
might seem to think
started.
so. It's on, because this intern's doing some other stuff too, and this just expands his hours. I think it's gonna expand his hours by 300 hours or something like that. So we'll see. If it's not, come back to us, I'll tell someone, 7 LA to come back to us. We'll give you some more, because we want it done.
Great.
Yeah, especially while you got one person doing it.
Right, and while get this momentum, we wanna keep it going.
Yeah,
So then we know what we're talking about. Then we can come up with a plan, but for now, we don't know.
No, that's
This is
fantastic.
really good. We should be doing the same thing around buffers. You know, we do have the data on buffers, so I can give it to you for Friends of Messalonsky. I mean, 51% of the lawns go down to the lake and, oh, yeah. 51% of the phosphorus problem is from land development.
Oh.
We have almost no agricultural activity, so it's that.
Yeah, not
So-
on Messalonsky anymore. I mean, you had it previously, but Messalonsky's a big stream, all that just goes flushing out anyway.
So, I think if we can't get anything passed, we should be doing something like what you're doing for the buffer thing. To let people know so that they get,
Build awareness.
exactly.
You keep hammering it. Even if you only get 10% of the people, it's 10% better than you were.
Right,
But most likely you might get 50% or more. Because if someone does it, their neighbor says, what are you doing? And this is why I'm doing, it. Oh, then you get peer pressure.
Yeah, if your association, Jenna, could, identify the properties that are problematic and then
well,
mail
that's
to
what I do through Lakesmart, but you can't just,
Yeah, them.
I'm sorry.
And-
I'm very bad
Thank you very
at
much, yeah. And then so you identify those properties and then mail to them, talk to them, reach out to them and say, this is what we would like to see you do. And you're liable to get some of those people, so you're already doing that with Lakesmart, but this would be the people that are probably, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of those lawns that are not even looking for Lakesmart.
Oh, yeah, no, there aren't. I try to do that, but you can't get the names of people. It's not easy. Like I go around in the boat and I go, ooh, that one, I start counting them and there's too many to count. But how do you know, you can't get the names of the people who live on the
There are apps.
property.
There are apps.
Oh, yeah, there is. There's an app. Like
What?
Onyx Hunt. You have Onyx
I've
Hunt?
got Onyx Hunt.
Onyx Hunt is great.
What?
So let me just make sure that Onyx Hunt,
It does work. I've got it on mine.
does it work,
Serious?
but it doesn't.
Isn't that like a
doesn't
violation
exactly-
of
I
privacy?
don't know that it works.
It's not public information.
It is, but it depends on your tax maps being on, line, and yeah, I can't see Bert's, Bert, you're not on here,
Where you living?
at your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but let's look at
Apps.
Messalonsky and just look and
So
see.
you're saying that as you walk around or drive around or whatever, it'll tell you who lives there?
Well, yeah, if the town, like, in Gardner, where I own, property, I can see where I am in relationship to my property line at any point in time. The same in where I own property in, New Sharon, except that is, my land there is inaccurate. I've been having a little,
But I mean, if Janet is walking down a road and there are houses there, it'll tell her who lives in the house?
who owns it? Yeah, like, so here's one, this is my land, in Gardner, here's the stream, Copasacanti stream, and the interstate is right there, 95, the tolls, and it says Bradley Christopher W. So it shows that I own both of those properties there.
Okay, and then-
Steve McGee's over here, you know, and then you can go in and zoom in and see that, all the owners of all these properties. But that's in Gardner and New Sharon, but it doesn't come up, does it come up for you, Bert, in Belgrade?
No, I'm not seeing the names on
Did
it.
you have to buy that app or is it? free?
yeah.
I buy this, yeah.
What is the app?
Well, so let me
Yeah,
see.
what's the name of it?
It's on X Hunt, so ON, the letter X, and then the word hunt, so on X Hunt. And,
On X.
but I mean, it has all sorts of, this is, I got the topo overlay, I can go into my property and, find out, the size of some of my fields, I can put on the computer and put dots around my field, and it'll tell me how many acres that field is.
Wow.
Really
Okay,
good
so
for,
then the next thing that I need is an email or a phone number.
for Onyx Hunt.
You just go in your app store.
No, she
But-
needs to know the name of the people.
Yeah, I
Oh,
like,
but
so,
but if you have the tax, so if you know who owns it, then you go to the tax maps.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a phone number or an email
Yeah,
address.
but you could mail to them. That would be
Mail to them what?
a letter saying.
Oh,
"Lawn
To
running down
the,
lake
to
and-"
the address of the,
Yeah, you mail it to whoever's on the tax bill. And the town of Belgrade has all that information, and you can go, you can look at the tax maps, it's a little hard because they're black and white and, you know. you
I've
can't-
seen them, I've used them.
Yeah, I mean, they're right sitting outside here, so,
Right.
and then
We're
that'll,
also available online.
right, they are on.
Yeah, that's where I've used the ones.
But the Sonics Maps is great, but I don't think it works in Belgrade.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't see the names. Let me look at Greenville, hold on, because that's where I've seen it up there.
Oh, yeah, it does up there, and then you have to download it. I was hunting moose in Aroostook County and we could see everything on it. Anyway, there might be other apps, but I suspect it's a Belgrade issue. Belgrade's
Maybe.
tax maps need to be online or something, you know?
yeah,
Well, but not, they're not digitized. They need to be online and
I
maybe
think it
digital.
works in Rome, that was, no,
a lot of work.
in Rome.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it, so it works in New Sharon, it doesn't work in Rome and Belgrade.
Okay,
Eric, do you have anything else to
No, that's it.
share with us? Appreciate you coming in and.
Yeah, I'm gonna head down the Seven Lakes Alliance MRC right now.
I tried to make the meeting tonight, but I got an errand to do, so. I
Okay.
Might be logging in late.
That's fine, just show up when you can.
Okay.
What time is the meeting?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
I go early, make sure things are set up.
Always a good way.
Where do you have it? Where do you hold it?
Seven
Hey,
Lakes.
folks, so we're expecting the database.
What's that, Kim?
Kimberly, we
Lost you.
partially heard you.
Something about database.
oh, is she driving?
Uh,
Yeah, you're in bad location. We can't-
You're breaking up, Kimberly.
Kimberly, if you text your question to me,
Why don't you not drive?
when
Yes.
she's with Andrew, so.
Don't advise that.
She's probably riding.
She can.
Andrew's driving, it's
Probably driving
a
the-
silver thing.
He's driving the
The silver,
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck. It's a crazy thing.
That thing goes fast.
Oh, they're the ones that have the Cybertruck?
What is a Cybertruck?
That big
You'll
thing
see it.
costs the same.
Oh, the Tesla thing?
Yeah, it goes fast.
Does it?
It
One
is-
night we were here for a meeting.
I was
and
asking, are we expecting?
Oh.
Sorry.
Breaking up
Can't
again.
understand you.
Yeah.
I think
Well, no wonder they like.
the database will be available to the code enforcement officers
Must try.
and Seven Lakes Alliance to use, but primarily for the code enforcement officers as a tool. And
Yeah.
for us too, to look at
Right,
and then come up with a plan. So start with education, identify. Then come up with a plan, solve the
Then
problem.
lock them up.
sounds
That's
good.
too constructive for.
I know,
No,
Throw in the, what about the emotion part?
well, no,
Nope.
other people can have an emotion about it,
Okay.
just gotta get it done.
So that's great. Yeah, I think that, spending time at the annual meeting, you know, on it and.
Good, you keep talking about it,
So Kimberly just texted me.
see what she had before I go.
Are we expecting the database to be completed this season?
Yes,
Yes. Great.
okay,
Thank you, Bert.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah. And I really appreciate your leadership on this because, you know, we talked about it sort of in the abstract and,
yeah,
you know, at the dinner, I asked you and, oh yeah, we're on top of it, getting it going. I was just like, whoa, because I wasn't even sure how to start. So it's great.
I thought about it, and,
That gives the first big step.
yep, and then
That's
just come up with a plan. Hit it,
I think that has the potential to make a difference, just knowing what we know.
so
about
we don't know,
Right, well, but knowing that we know that, if you've got, effluent running into the lake, then the phosphorus is, big and, you know.
And you can say that, oh, septic doesn't contribute that much phosphorus, but it contributes other stuff. That you
Well,
don't wanna be swimming in,
Does.
Exactly, you don't wanna be doing that, but,
floating down the lake.
but it's also the phosphorus,
Yeah.
which is the
It
biggest
is the
thing, yeah, I
phosphorus.
mean.
If you've got a washing machine, that's just,
Well, yeah, I mean, the urine has got a lot of,
does
phosphorus.
urine have phosphorus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Urine has some phosphorus, yes.
Does it?
Yes,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
well, it's-
That's right. I mean, if you want to, you want to help your plants along and your shrubs around your house, just go outside and
Well,
pee there.
and mix it with water first, otherwise it's too strong.
Yeah,
I have
sure.
seen that research.
No,
No, I'm serious, I
You
have,
gotta mix. a
'cause I
little bit.
studied
How many
outhouses.
beers did you have ahead of time, though, that's,
Depends on whose urine.
To make thing, it said, well, urine, don't let it go down into the outhouse, have a separate collection.
Yeah.
And have it go out into a tank, add some water and use it to sprinkle in your plants, but don't put it straight up.
Yeah.
So, I did some research on our house about 10, 15 years ago, I have the nicest house in Moosehead.
So
So
good,
it's all made with cedar line,
composting?
no, well,
Yeah,
yeah, it's.
I mean, yeah. but-
Eventually, yeah,
But it's not a composting toilet, it's a,
no.
that's great.
Well, it's-
Thank you, Bert.
All right, see you later, Pat, I'll see you in a bit.
You bet.
All right.
If anybody has any questions, just send an email or a text or something.
Thanks.
Lenny, good to see you. I can't believe you're gonna be 79 years old.
Oh, my.
Sucks.
It
sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's better than the alternative.
Well, it looks great on him, but I don't know.
Well, we can arrange that, Chris.
Oh,
For the
well.
right amount of
hopefully.
dollars, just send me a text. I'll take care of it for you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not 79 yet, not till October 3rd.
You know,
It's getting there. That was good. I appreciate Bert coming in.
Yeah, that was
It's a-
good.
It's a good first step that we really need to do.
Yeah,
Um,
well, consider we're stalled in so many ways, this is a good thing.
Yes. So I guess
Yeah.
now we're up to item number 2, waiting to hear from NDP on.
and so I kind of, I mean, I sent you pretty much all I know on that is that, well, I mean, just to give some color, I talked to Stuart Cole on it and it just didn't sound like it was feasible
To do a recovery.
well, to do what the DP wanted was, here's the list of plants that are that are permitted in your recovery buffer. And, Stuart just didn't seem to think that that made sense. And then, you know, talking about it, you're like, okay, well, we're gonna dig it up, dig up the ground and plant stuff. And then, you know, my luck with planting stuff is not great. So especially like blueberries and stuff, it can be tough. And, you gotta watch it, and if you're a seasonal person, you know, say you show up 4th of July, is that the right time to, and what happened to your plants in the month of June, you know, so anyway, I think that, so I sent that email to Colin Clark at DEP, and it sounds like he's, based on previous communication with him, he's busy, understaffed, and the questions and the issues come in and he tries to address them in order. And when I first went to him with the recovery buffer, he said, we'll jump you ahead of the line. And he did say that. So, I don't know. I mean, doesn't make me think he's gonna get back right away on that. But it was a pretty easy question, I think. But I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I'm not sure if, I mean, why would they stop us from putting in our ordinance that you could have a no-mow buffer, but you can mow it, you can cut it once a year?
They would stop that. Why wouldn't anybody want to put in a buffer where you cut it once a year?
Okay, here we go, Jana, all right.
I understand, I do, but
Because to maintain the view,
I understand that. I do
Stuart
understand that,
said-
but it would be
Stuart said-
against.
that would be a good, he thought that would be a good buffer.
It would be a better buffer than no buffer, but it goes against the chapter 1000.
Why?
And that's why
But
that's why I
the
think.
lawn goes against chapter 1,000.
But that's not an excuse for, you know, I feel like you can't put in an ordinance that conflicts with the standing ordinance. That's why I think it will work. Not that I'm for
Some,
a lovely, beautiful buffer, but if we can't have a lovely, big, beautiful buffer,
big, beautiful.
I'm for, something that's 3 feet tall or whatever. But I don't think that they would let us do that.
So if that's what Stuart comes back with, my suggestion would be we change chapter 1,000. Why not?
Well, I said that the
Who
very
the hell-
first day we did this.
Well, I know,
But that's a
what are
lot.
you gonna change it to? I've got a proposal to change it to something. You just don't like the formula of point system.
No, I think
Can we
it's
call that
great.
back? How do we change chapter 1,000?
Yes,
They're going to the state.
We go to the state and say, hey, folks, we don't like the way you've done this and you need to change it?
but you know what? Since I've discovered the handbook, which has pictures, and now that I understand the point system, I think you couldn't present it any other way. It's scientific and it's mathematical. It just took me forever to understand.
Right.
Now that I understand it, you can't present it because every property is unique. So you can't say 10 trees, be spaced, you can't say anything precise like that. You have to create a table like they did.
Right, so what if, so we're talking about, making a property owner put in a buffer of some sort. When they have a lawn running down to the water that they want to, and they want something from the town, they want permission to, a permit from the town. So you have an opening where you say, okay, if you want to put in this new garage or whatever you want, then you've got to do something for the good of the lake. And if they won't let us under the current chapter 1,000, why don't we change chapter 1,000? I mean, I am not one to just sit there and say, oh, I can't do it because chapter 1,000. So, well, what the hell? Let's, we go to our state representatives, we go to, the governor, we go to whomever. We find somebody that'll answer the phone. I mean, Colin Clark will not answer the phone. His recording says, send me an email. So, but there's gotta be somebody that we can get to through.
Can you
state-
explain what the conflict is with what is the conflict with chapter 1,000 with our vis-a-vis our recovery buffer of a no-mow zone?
You can't cut down trees at will in your buffer.
We're not
just
saying that.
can't. You
Are
can
we?
trim up. Right, there's that in it.
Well, I think I forwarded the email from Colin Clark to everyone that, his reaction, once he understood what the recovery buffer meant. Because I got the sense from his email, because we can only do email, that he didn't quite understand what we were proposing. And so I said that to maintain your view, you could cut sapling trees that are, immature. Once they get big enough, you're out of luck and you missed your opportunity to cut them. And he said that wouldn't fly. So, what I'm saying now is that, well, what if you've got a lawn? Can we specify a no-mow zone that you can cut down to X number of inches? I put in 8 inches as a suggestion, once a year. And I wanted to see what his reaction to that is.
8 inches. How did you come up with 8 inches?
I was talking to Stuart Cole. Stuart Cole was, see, I don't think we want you to mow it once a year with your lawnmower. And I looked at my lawnmower and it's like 3.5 inches or 4 inches or so is what it says. I measured it. I measured my bush hog, which is, maybe 6 inches or so, but I feel that's a little dangerously close to the 4 inches of a lawnmower. So I'm thinking 8 inches, and you could do a weed whacker, you could do a walk behind brush mower, maybe, if it doesn't go below 8 inches. they do a hedge.
Well, why not just say it can, I mean, farmers cut big fields with, to harvest hay, and that keeps the vegetation and the saplings and all the down. Why wouldn't we encourage that?
Because that would be pretty short. When they hay a field, I'm gonna say it's around 4 to 6 inches when they hay a field. I don't think it's, so if you do that, you're just having a lawn that you are now saying you can only cut once a year. You've still got a lawn. It's not really as good as a no-mow zone that grows tall grasses and maybe it grows some shrubs, and people, maybe they're like, okay, I don't mind it if it's a foot tall or whatever.
But what if we phrase that that we are requiring that you cannot cut this area more than once a year?
So then they're gonna mow it with their riding lawnmower once a year.
What's wrong with that?
It's gonna stay a lawn. It's not as, if you say they can only cut it down to X number of inches, then, and set that minimum number of inches at a higher level than a lawnmower is able to do, then you force them to stop mowing their lawn and start cutting it, maybe selectively, maybe with some device that's will mow it, cut it above a lawnmower, and then you get away from a lawn. I don't know, I mean,
I'm just asking, what if we said that they could cut this area once a year with a lawnmower? It seems to me you are you trying to design this because you're afraid of people forfeiting a view? I mean, are we caving into the view lobby here? Is that what is driving this?
Yes.
if we said that you can't cut it at all, then trees are gonna grow up. I mean,
Well, that's why we need to have them cut it. Maybe you say they can only cut it once a year and they have to cut it once a year.
Well, I'd love the trees to grow up and block their view. I don't care about their view. I care about the lake. But I don't think that's gonna fly past the planning board, because I can hear a couple of voices right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And know that the voters are gonna like that once it's explained to them.
So
So
I think,
that's why.
but what is the objective? Our objective is to make an area that is beneficial to the lake. And does that mean that how does that deal with our view of the trees growing?
What do you mean?
Do we want to? Well, if you have a no-mow zone, it's all going to grow up, is what you're saying. But if you have a no-mow, an area that you require people to mow it at least once a year to keep it down, so you're not, I mean, then you're preventing a lot of trees from growing, which is not what we want, but it may be the accommodation to get it passed. So you're gonna have people who can know they can preserve it the way it is now.
I just don't think you get much of a buffer if you are able to mow it with a lawnmower once a year. And I'd love it if the trees grew up and I don't care about their view, but I think realistically, we need to be anticipating that we're gonna get a lot of pushback if we are trying to create something that's gonna grow up and block their view, and their value of their property will go down if they, if the view is blocked, and they're gonna sue us for whatever it's called, unreasonable taking or something like that, and that was mentioned by Cam Ferrante, when he reviewed this, so, I don't know, so. What's your alternative, Paul?
Well, I don't like the idea of just giving up. I mean, I suppose it's a long process to, it's the same issue whether we go to the state with chapter 1,000, isn't it?
Well, so I'm not ready to give up, and we haven't heard from Colin Clark at the DEP. What I'm saying is that I'm asking the question. Does anybody have a problem with a no-mow zone that you can cut once a year, but not with a lawnmower, in such a fashion that you can't mow it with your lawnmower? Does that seem to make sense? Yeah, weed whacker, I mean, I have a, electric hedge trimmer, I use that on all sorts of stuff, so I don't think it's a hardship, to do that. DEP may not like it, but
Can you remind me what the depth of this is?
30 feet or 30%.
Yeah. So I mean, depending upon the width of the shoreline width, it could be a substantial area. I'm not arguing against it. I think it's a good idea. I don't like the idea of mowing with a mower if you're gonna try to have something that is going to have effectively be a buffer of some sort. It's just that if you're gonna do it with a hedge trimmer or a weed whacker, well, I mean, with a weed whacker, you can do it, but sort of trying to keep that 8 inches or some semblance thereof. I mean, I'm not particularly good with a weed whacker, so, or all that experience. It would be tough to, if it's large, to do with a hedge trimmer.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you just would do it selectively. If you've got grasses that grow up and they're 3
Yeah.
feet tall,
Yeah,
it's not blocking your view.
oh, of course
You know,
not, yeah,
and it's creating a nice buffer.
yeah.
And
And
then
we
all of
want
a
to
sudden-
encourage like blueberry bushes being planted, right?
Well, it'd be great if the blueberry bush grows up and.
Yeah.
Well, the low bushes don't grow very high,
Right.
so that would be fine. But I'm very good at using a weed whacker. I
Are you?
don't have
Oh,
a
good.
lawn and I use it everywhere.
Oh, dear.
On my this and my that all over the place, but it would look terrible if you weed whacked. A whole property full of bushes is what I think. You chop the head off of everything and it wouldn't look
And that
very
might
good.
be the planning board saying, well, that's gonna look like hell, and that's not practical and
Yeah.
whatever. So, but I mean, what are we gonna do?
I think we need to engage with the planning board. I would go for what you're suggesting and bring it to the planning board.
Well, I'd like to see what Colin Clark at DEP says first, before we go down this rat hole. I don't wanna,
Yeah,
and
Why would they wanna weed whack their blueberry bushes? Why won't they just go around them?
well, hopefully, see, this whole thing is an educational piece, which is why I like what Bert was doing. And I think really that's the way we have to go, even if we never get any legislation passed. We need to, I like the idea of calling the other towns and having them create a committee like ours. Let's make our forces wider. And the more people that understand this problem and the more towns that become leaders in this. It's like Lake Smart does one property at a time. It's very slow, but it's good. If we could get the towns to be the leaders in this, I think that's the way to go. And I think we do need to constantly work on the educational piece while we wait for Colin Clark to get back to us. And do our planning board thing at the same time to talk to.
it isn't,
Our
the
friends.
DLA, isn't it the lake associations that should be taking the lead on that? And aren't we charged with trying to look at the ordinance and come up with changes to the ordinance?
We are, but we can't do it. And I don't know if we can do it in a timely fashion, and our lakes are deteriorating. I mean, we can't even get the DEP to respond to us. I'm gonna,
Well, I mean,
so I
he's
just,
only had a week, or no, he's only had 4 days, so that's not very, so it's.
So Janet, what are you proposing instead?
I think that I think that we need to build up our educational piece. And one of the ways to do that is to contact our neighboring towns and ask them to create a committee like this. Then we become not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, but maybe 14.
Rome.
Or maybe 28, or if Rome already is part of this, so let's make ourselves bigger. And maybe somebody will have the initiative like Bert did. To, you know, put flyers out and tell people, here's what you need to do to have a buffer, because. You know, I'm working on my buffer all the time. And I've been doing this for years. And the reality is what we're asking people to do is a visual thing, and we don't even know scientifically if it works or. So, for example, if you cut your trees down, but you left your roots there, and you planted something else to come up and to take the space, but it took years for that plant to grow, you can't be like smart. You know, like, so, but you are already like smart. All I'm saying to you is that it's not a scientific thing. It isn't, and I believe that
Why isn't it a scientific thing?
because there is no proof that when I do a Lake Smart, they're so specific about how you have to cover the buffer and shading it and what, all the different things that you need to do. And I will assess something and decide that it's Lake Smart, but Lake Smart will say, no, it isn't, because it doesn't look a certain way. But anyway, the point is, all I'm saying is that it's an educational thing, and takes a long time to learn. So if you ask people to weed whack their buffer, it just, you know, I don't think they would understand going around their blueberry bushes, maybe not the first year, maybe the second year. You know, or would they understand that there are blueberry bushes and that there are a variety of things that you can plant that are of different heights?
Yeah.
And that a tree is a beautiful thing to look through. I think that eventually everybody will learn that a buffer is a good thing and that a tree in your face is a lovely thing too. But
I have a suggestion which doesn't do, it's not really for our committee. But it's a suggestion anyway, which gets at what you're talking about, John. And as I was just sort of thinking about it, you were saying we should have committees like this in every town and da, 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 da. But what really would work well, because everybody keeps talking about education, we're trying to write an ordinance, which will kind of make people do that, and we realize, and we come to the kind of the realization that it's very difficult to write an ordinance to make people do this. Education only goes so far, but it does go, you know, reasonably far. It will convince some people to change what they have. I think what would work reasonably well and get a fair number of people on board is something that we can't do, but Seven Lakes Alliance could do. I mean, what made me think about it is Bert's talking here about his intern that's coming in for VLA. I mean, this is nothing that Seven Lakes Alliance has ever done. But what about having Seven Lakes suggesting to Seven Lakes Alliance that they consider this would not be a 1-year thing, but multi-year thing, hiring some interns for the summer, whose job it would be to go around on all of the lakes as sort of educational interns, not that they're being educated, but they're out there to educate property owners around the lakes, and they come with packets of information about buffers.
Like Mormon missionaries or something.
Like more, just like Mormon, they don't have to wear ties and white shirts, but you know, but they go around the lakes and they they might conceivably go around in boats looking at properties and land at docks. However, and land at the docks of the properties that really need it, and try and really go to the people whose properties really need it and try and do some education. That's just a thought. I mean, that's one way to get at it.
No, that would be.
And that would be very, very, I think that in the long term would be very, very helpful, but that's just a suggestion. I mean, Pat and I are in a position to make that suggestion to Chris and to Laura and and to Stewart and such, and Seven Lakes Alliance. As something that would be very helpful to have some summer people, some summer interns doing that sort of thing. To have-
Show and tell, here's what you need to do.
Yeah, right, yeah, educational outreach. I mean, they do have a program of educational outreach, but it's done differently than that. It's just that people sign up for programs or they go to the schools and, and talk to students and things like that. Or they go to the summer camps and take the kids out on boats. Yeah, right. But in this case, if you actually did an educational outreach to the actual property owners,
Yeah.
that might be in many ways more effective.
Well, that's basically what Lakesmart does.
Well, yeah, but it does, like you say, one property at a time, and generally speaking, my experiences on our lake is it only does it to properties when the property owners come forward to the Lakesmart representatives and say, we'd like you to come to our property.
Right, and Burt's not gonna do it now because he failed it 10 years ago and he
And the reason he failed is because, I'm not gonna get into that,
got along.
but
I
anyway.
wanna get rid of his lawn.
Elaine, do they need permission to go on property? I know, well, they're gonna need permission to
Well, they would just not to go knock on somebody's
knock on the
door.
door.
Yeah, knock on the door and say, hey, we're here from da, 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 and we have this stuff, and, love to talk to you about possibly doing such and such, and, people said, no.
It would really be tailored as to what the property looks like from the water.
From the water, yeah, so they could.
You have a lawn, so, I mean, they could conceivably have a handout for properties that have lawns or whatever that
sure.
talks about buffers, put it in a plastic thing and.
There is a flyer that
Yeah.
talks exactly about
Yeah.
that I hand out when I go around in Tanya's
When
boat.
somebody calls
I mean,
you and asks to be.
Yeah, and not only flyers, there may already exist, and if there doesn't, they could create. Online YouTube things that, go through all the stuff to do, videos so that they can, the flyers or whatever could have links.
Yeah.
To tell people where to go to see how to do this stuff, because a lot of people these days don't read very much and are very visual. So they want to be pulled up on their phone or whatever it is, their phone or their iPad or whatever, and be walked through the various steps. But however, that's for
I
that,
think it's good because a younger person isn't like the code enforcement officer coming on.
yeah, so,
They're
that.
coming on,
Yeah.
friendly, it's.
So anyway, so I think, the perfect organization to do that is Seven Lakes Alliance. That's really right in their wheelhouse. They've never approached things that way before, but they certainly could. It's a very positive thing to do. So I can make that suggestion to them, or we can make that suggestion to them, yeah.
I think you should make that
That would be
suggestion,
great.
and maybe they'll have some other ideas as
Well,
well.
Right, they've got the erosion control experts and, lake science, so the package is all there.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
this
it's
is-
too late to do that for this summer, but
Yeah.
for maybe starting next summer, that'd be something.
Build a way to get it.
out. They just have,
How we're gonna do it.
Well, so to give you an example, I'm working with Seven Lakes next week to present a buffer workshop. They're all gonna be there, people are invited to come, and we demonstrate what this looks like. And I talk about what a buffer should look like. And then we have some sort of, I don't know, giveaway or something like that. But we are already doing that, but it would be really good to be doing it more. To reach out to
Mhm.
more places, and if Seven Lakes thinks that they could do that, that would be really great.
I think ultimately we're gonna need the consent of the owners to make this happen. Well,
Well, you-
absolutely.
They're gonna buy in,
Oh, for sure, yeah, right, I'm thinking of,
but I think this is a great step to get access to it.
yeah,
I mean, originally, we wanted to do this because they were gonna get a permit.
Yeah.
And then when they were gonna get the permit, then we would say you have to have a buffer.
But yeah, I'm not ready to let that one go.
oh, no, right, what I'm suggesting
This
is
is
not,
an ancillary.
yeah, what I'm suggesting is not in
No.
place of what we're doing here. This is just something else.
But how is it not within our wheelhouse to contact the other towns and ask them to do a committee like this?
Well, we could certainly could do that. I would tell you right now that, my lake, McGraw Pond Salmon Lake Association Board of Directors meets two evenings from now on Thursday evening. And on our agenda is to get a group of people from, we are split about half and half between Belgrade and Oakland. And on our agenda is to get a group from Oakland to meet with FOM and EPA, East Pond Association. To get together with those groups to then approach Oakland about starting a committee.
Oh, great.
So I mean,
Yeah,
we're,
that's perfect.
yeah, so so you'll be hearing more about it from our folks. soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is happening.
So that should be happening soon. I mean, when I say should be happening soon, the three lake associations should be getting together to discuss how to approach the town,
Right.
okay?
And we should do that around Sydney as well, although Sydney's
Okay, well, at
more
this point, let's
different.
talk to Oakland,
Okay,
and then you all.
because Oakland at least has a town manager, Sydney, I don't think
Yeah,
even
right.
does that.
Yeah, I know Kathy, your president, Kathy has said that they've talked to, I think, to Nathan Smart about it, and he was generally positive, but you have, that's something you have to go to the town manager and the,
Do we know if,
and the town council.
Do we know if Smithfield has a committee or not?
Oh, I don't, I think we know that they don't, but I have no idea what they're, what they would.
Yeah, because it all, water comes from there.
Oh, yeah,
Great Ponds water comes
Yeah.
from there
and from us too, so.
um,
Okay. Yeah. And
One thing I
the town-
wanted to,
The town manager of Oakland has property on Salmon Lake.
Oh, Paul, you had something?
well, in the past, we've had some educational meetings. You know, and I'm just wondering if you could have a speaker and, you know, somehow say, all of you who have lawns that are going down to the lake, you know, somehow try and catch interest of people. Because the basic science that I understand that we all know is that there is there's science that tells us of how many parts per billion of phosphorus go into the lake due to runoff. Is that correct, Chris?
What was, how many, what? I couldn't quite.
How much phosphorus, what is the greatest source of phosphorus from the shore? It's
Well,
runoff,
I mean,
it's runoff from lawns, isn't it?
Well,
Lawns
it's
and roads.
gravel roads is probably right up there. It's debatable about septic, but I think I'm convinced that septic is a big deal. Charlie Bader says, phosphorus coming from, power plants in the Midwest that fall in the form of rain on your lawn and go right into the water is a significant source. So,
I
yeah.
thought you had some studies that we had in our information backing up the recovery. Which showed how much phosphorus went into the lake.
Jim Jesperson had some charts on that.
Yeah, I'm not
Charlie-
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that I have that. You mean like that comes from a lawn? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes, and I mean, I just wonder we could have an educational forum that we could have it at the Center for All Seasons, or we could have it at the Main Lake Resource Center. You know, like we've had in the past, when I was in the BLA, we had Dave Roque speak. Could we have some others speak and understanding how the dirt gets into the lakes? And, you know, and the
Seven
primary
Lakes
thing
has-
is education. And how are we gonna get to educate people on a voluntary basis? I mean, yeah, I
Well, I
suppose you could go around and you could identify all the property owners that have lawn going down to the lake by photographs of, you know, there's many different ways to do that, I guess.
There are a whole lot of people that don't go to the BLA annual meeting, that don't go to the Seven
Right.
Lakes Alliance annual meeting, that and those are the ones that I'm familiar with. That don't even know that there's a problem with our lakes.
Right,
And some of which are my relatives, and I've been working on them, and so I think the most effective idea I've heard is the going door to door, the Mormon missionaries going dock to dock.
It works.
And I mean, and saying, hey, did you know that your lawn is seen to be an issue and that you could do something about it? Wouldn't you
Well,
like
the
to do that?
reality of that, cause I do it,
Yeah,
is that they're not home. I go by and there's the lawn
They hide.
and they're not there.
so you will go and if they were there,
If I have
and-
run into people that have been there and I
and just
have
sort of
mentioned it.
mention
And they
it.
go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Here's my card. Nobody ever calls me back. So, and Seven Lakes does educational things like you're talking about. The most effective thing that we have done has been these buffer workshops where a lot of people come because they get free plants. And we demonstrate what's going on. That has been the most effective way to educate people. And we try to do it on properties that need it. So right now I'm doing it on Lakeside, which is that wedding venue. They have trees and no buffer, but they're trees. And so last year they let me put in tulips. Tulips. This year I'm doing bushes. And I just mandated that we're gonna put in some height to these and create a real buffer, and they agreed to it. So it's a very, very slow process, is what I'm saying.
Okay. My view is don't give up, and I don't know how
We're not giving up.
Oh,
Just
I'm
keep
I-
going.
I'm not ready
effectively,
to do that. But I guess. What do we,
Well, speaking of,
I mean, if I was gonna change the chapter 1000, maybe I'd change it to the recovery buffer and create a new type of. Thing in the chapter 1000, which would be a recovery buffer where you could cut. Sapling trees down to the ground level, if they were, if you so chose, but you couldn't cut anything else and you didn't necessarily excavate it all and try to put in a whole bunch of plants and just naturally let it grow. Is that, I guess I'm back to what do I do about Colin Clark DP, no mow zone, recovery buffer? And we just wait and see what Colin Clark says and then react to that?
Is Colin Clark giving us a sort of a statutory opinion and based on the chapter 1000, or is he giving us a scientific response as to what's best for the buffer? I mean, do we know what's
He's
best?
He's statutory, so the process, if we get a ordinance change in the shoreline zone, it goes through. Planning board, select board, town attorney, the voters, and then it goes to DEP, and then DEP can shoot it down. For their own
Right.
reasons.
I understand.
So what I think makes sense is I'd like to go to the planning board saying that DEP already says this is okay. Because I know that they're all gonna say, well, this will never fly, no matter what we have, they're gonna say it's not gonna fly. If it is a significant change, that, is a buffer in turn for a building permit or something like that, so I'd like to.
Aren't we really asking, we're trying to weigh, if you have a recovery zone that we're now talking about putting together that never existed before versus saving trees, what is gonna be more efficient scientifically to protect the lakes?
scientifically, trees are better, but that's not, it's a matter of if we can't get anything passed. What is the point? But I would like to, before we run
Well,
out of
trees are
time.
better, how are we gonna get it passed? To allow them
that's
to
it.
cut down trees.
Well, that's the dilemma right now. We can't, it goes against chapter 1000.
But if we
So-
can't scientifically that what where we want to change is gonna be better for the lakes, then we're sunk.
Well, I think it's generally accepted. I mean, Colin Clark would love to see a recovery buffer. It just won't fly with chapter 1000. He said that. He says, I like it. He wants to go in this direction, but they're forced by chapter 1000 not to do that. So, I guess I'd say we see what he says. and then go from there. And,
I guess we have to ask Colin Clark, what kind of recovery buffer does he want to see?
oh, he doesn't. I don't think he's in that business to do that.
Well, who
I think
is?
More our job.
it's more our job to propose and him to either approve or disapprove of something, I think.
Maybe we have to go to a consultant to find out like a Jen Jesperson and raise some money or something to get something through.
Well, this is really important and I would really like to get
What
to it
would you-
before our time is done.
Yes.
I am presenting at the Lake Conference on Friday. And I really want to speak for our group in a way that states what's happening. And, which is, that the truth is that we're roadblocked. That we got one thing passed and it's a great thing, but on the other two, we're really roadblocked and but I want to know, can I present any of our proposals as they're written or not? And I don't know which ones, quite frankly, if I can. Like, we don't have anything written on the no mow thing. There's nothing delineated there. The recovery buffer is here. Is that like 11 or something?
Why don't you go through there?
I
and
did go through it, but
And-
there's several, and the question is,
Just you're gonna be in a group, you're a panel, right?
I'm a panel, but they're asking each one of us to make a presentation,
Yeah.
is what they're asking for at this
But
point.
it's not gonna be a huge presentation, because
No, it's gonna be probably 10 minutes. And I'm gonna need to be very succinct in my 10 minutes about what's going on here.
I would just talk about, say, we're trying to tighten up the ordinance, we're focused on stuff that's meaningful for the lake. Buffer, septic, and go through the list and just, I don't think you're gonna be able to present. You could spend a half an hour on each one of those.
I'm
things,
not,
so
I'm
you can't do
suggesting that we're only gonna, that we've narrowed it down to two things. My question is there,
Why do you wanna do just two things?
because I'm not gonna go through this whole thing, and because the planning board has suggested that we only present three. One being the one that we got passed, and we narrowed it down now to the buffer and the septic thing.
I do not believe that the planning board at Belgrade said that we should present three. They have varying opinions from the planning board. I don't think we don't have marching orders from the planning board.
We only held back because of
Yeah,
political reasons.
and
But that-
pragmatic.
That's the
Yeah.
point, and that's where we're at now, so I'm not saying we're not gonna eventually engage in all of these, and for the most part, they're variations on the theme of a buffer. It's about whether to cut trees down and not cut trees down.
Yeah.
So, but all I'm
Yeah.
asking is there, should I do change number 10 if I were to read something? To give them an
I guess,
example,
I mean, I went to the conference last year. Unfortunately, this year, I forgot to register. I reached out to Susan Gallo. She's gonna know tomorrow whether there's any cancellations, whether I can go or not. Just too bad, because I really wanted to go. But I think you could just say, we're looking at this and just do bullet points. Don't read a whole thing.
not a whole thing, I would, if we're, to give people an
Do
idea,
whatever you wanna do.
no,
you know.
we can do whatever we wanna do.
I'm suggesting, go through, make up a list, it could be 8 things, or it could be 13, or it could be 4. And I'd say, this is what, we're looking at, this is what we'd like to do. And I think you should all, in the audience, all of you, should be doing the same thing on your lake. And if you have interest, let us know, if you've got any of these things knocked out in your community, tell us, because we'd love to see ordinance examples. We'd love to do that, but that's my suggestion.
You could talk about septic systems and.
Yeah.
We've got 4 things of septics we've got.
Yeah, that's all, that's not up in the air, the septic.
So we don't, I wouldn't, as Chris said, read it verbatim, we're looking at X, Y, Z, but. Go for the broader thing. Why are we doing this? what are we trying to achieve?
Well, that I've done, but I wanted to give them an example of.
Like,
an
just
ordinance.
like, septic examinations of older systems are important. I think we're working on things like that, just.
Yeah, man, what Bert is talking about, I mean, that's a great thing, trying to get it into the database, so what the age of the septic system, and then, because then we can, enables us to start looking at,
Start from there, we'll start with
Yeah.
the most.
What would you like to present? What's your best advice to
I
us?
was going to present that, how we got started. And that we looked at the chapter 1000. And the most relevant piece of that is that in 1991, all these properties were grandfathered into the law. So in fact, in order for us to request or demand that anybody, for example, build a buffer, we couldn't. Because everything is already grandfathered in. So given that, we looked at what were the issues. We had many of the issues. We did a tremendous amount of research. We interviewed experts. And we came up with 24 ideas, which the planning department suggested we narrow to 3 for now. And what I was going to do was say that we got one passed, the one that we got passed. And now we've been really flummoxed about the buffer, and we propose, we're talking about 2 kinds, one being a no-mow, the other being a recovery buffer, where you sort of designate what plants might go in there, but this could be a very expensive thing. And I was going to also say that we've been contacting other towns and, to get guidance from them about what to do around the septic issue. And so we contacted Level, and Level's been roadblocked. Because they couldn't.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's why I want to say this out loud.
Dave Rope, we have not been in contact with Level as far as I know. Dave Rope is, and he was the one that said that it was, hit a roadblock, but I wouldn't,
Yeah, you can't say that.
I wouldn't broadcast that to everybody there. I mean, there's no point in that.
No,
I think you should basically do what you're saying with this
Yeah.
correction. And I suggest that, I don't know how you handled it, you think it's smart for her to bring up how difficult it is in terms of the DEP and the
Well, I
statutory.
wasn't gonna say that. I was simply gonna say that we were awaiting for DEP to respond to our
yeah,
buffer question about whether it should be a recovery buffer or what do they think about a no-mow buffer, but we hadn't heard from them yet. And
I think you could say that, chapter 1000 it's difficult to come up with a compromise between a lawn and a forested buffer. And we're trying to do that in some fashion that's gonna pass, through the DEP, but.
and the wording step so that it would be applicable and work for everybody.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And I'd try to see if there are other people are working on this,
yeah, that's a good suggestion.
We really wanna, God, if we could find somebody and say, oh yeah, we've already done all this,
Hey, we're working on, what do you guys?
Yeah, I know, or, maybe they've done all this and they could, oh yeah, sure, we got it all squared away, but who knows? Somebody down east.
What do landscape architects think about that? When they do a design, because they know the science. They know every law.
No, actually, a lot of landscape architects don't know the science. I can't believe what they come up with for a plan. It doesn't take any consideration of the lake in. A lot of people don't know this stuff.
Yeah, they're not environment, no,
You know what?
Landscape architects, they're just-
Hardscape.
they're a different kind of architect.
Well, we've got 15 more minutes. Any other topics we want to hit?
Did Paul, you wanna say
Paul
something?
had some stuff he wanted to.
Oh,
Paul,
Yes,
we've got 15 minutes left, Paul, so do you want to bring up your comments on the Board of Appeals?
sure. Well, I sent the memo around. I don't know if anybody read it.
I read it, but I don't understand it.
All right, well, it's very, all right, I'll take you through it. Essentially, a code enforcement officer, in order to enforce the code, provides a property owner with a notice of violations, which says you're in violation of the shoreline zoning ordinance. And the question is,
Last call.
10 minutes. We were
the
just.
question is, if a property owner objects to the notice of violation, believing that he or she is not in violation, what is your recourse? And right now, the only recourse is to go to the Superior Court. And the initial question was, is this part of our province? Is this part of our mission? And I showed you in section 16 of the code of the shoreline zoning ordinance under administration, that it provides, so it's in the shoreline zoning ordinance, it provides that any order of the CEO is not, cannot appeal to the Board of Appeals. It has to go to the Superior Court. And so that results in great expense, a long delay, very costly, because I'm personally going through it. But this is not, if we do anything, it doesn't benefit me or Warren at all. It's just, I think this is something that should be corrected. And it's not like every town has this. There are provisions that provide for the other towns, allow you to go to the Board of Appeals. And that's what I've shown. And so I think for us to do our due diligence and our investigation, that we need to have come before us, the CEO, get his opinion on this, the town manager who can tell you how much it costs the town to defend in the court system, and also the chairman of the Board of Appeals that can tell us whether they'd accept this obligation. They think it's a good idea. And I've said that the Board of Appeals, according to the town, I don't know what you call it, the plan, when you get advised as to what each board is doing, said they didn't meet last year. So you have a 3-person Board of Appeals that does nothing or did nothing last year. So I think it's like a no-brainer that this should go to the Board of Appeals, because then it could get resolved. It could be done quietly without embarrassment. It would save the town money. It would be more efficient. And I attempted to try and get some information from the Maine Municipal Association, but I can't do that. That's something that has to be initiated by the member, which is the town. So I'd ask the town manager to initiate an inquiry to the Maine Municipal Association to see what their position would be on this.
Paul, I have a question. So if if someone gets a notice of violation and then appeals to the Board of Appeals, as you're suggesting, the Board of Appeals then turns them down and says, no, your violation stands. Would the individual or the property owner then be able at that point to go ahead to the Superior Court and appeal that to the courts?
Yes, that's what I think it does now. Yeah.
So this is just an additional step.
Would
It's
this
a-
have to be voted
An
by the
additional,
town?
yes, like all these amendments that we're proposing, all have to be voted by the town. It's the same process to go to the planning board, the select board, the same thing.
And then they put it out to the general public?
Yeah, so this is a change to the shoreline zoning ordinance, right?
Right. And then also the other aspect of this is that once you go through this Superior Court, which could take you also to the Supreme Judicial Court, and once the determination is made as to whether or not the notice of violations is legal or illegal or can be upheld, then the town has to go and file a separate action under what's called 80K in the district court to enforce what now has been determined to be a valid notice of violations. So it is a gruesome bureaucratic process. It can be short-circuited, although we're trying to avoid short-circuiting in other situations. It could be short-circuited by going to the Board of Appeals and trying to work it out and settle it sort of in-house.
Yeah, it seems that there has to be an answer to it.
So the action, by this committee, your 4 points that you suggest, who should do this?
Who should do what?
Who's gonna, interview the CEO? Who's
I
gonna
guess
interview-
I'm really meaning that I think we should, the whole committee should have this, bring these people in and talk to them. We could probably do it in one session.
Oh, in the case where the Board of Appeals finds against, the applicant, do they still have a right to appeal to a?
Yeah, I just asked that.
That's what I would hope for, the full appellate
Yeah.
right. This is a way to resolve it without,
Without going there first.
But seeing that you're on this board, can we actually do that?
it's done in other,
Yes.
it's done in other towns in Maine. There's a lot of other towns that do it this way that I'm suggesting. It's not like, this is not a new deal. This is something joining other communities.
I'm afraid we're gonna have to call it a wrap.
Yeah, so what's our action on this? To put it on the agenda for a meeting, to invite the CEO, the town manager, to talk about it?
Well, that's what I would, that's what I would move to.
My only, I think this is a fine idea. My only question is whether this is the role, whether it's the role of this committee or whether this should be going directly to the planning board to initiate.
Well, our mission has been to deal with amendments to the Shores Land zoning ordinance, and this is right there.
Well, our mission was to sort of tighten up the shoreline zoning ordinance to protect the lakes.
The water quality, and this
For
is.
water quality,
this
yeah.
is a different issue, but, I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm just asking the question. I'm not providing an answer. I'm just wondering
I
whether.
just wonder if it would be a conflict of interest
We
for
can
us.
run this by the town
But he's saying
manager.
it doesn't affect him, and
Yeah.
actually, he's aware of it because it's happening to him.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna affect the outcome of what he's going through.
Right.
He's
No,
going to go
that's-
through this no matter what. I'm in favor of doing it.
I'm in favor of continuing the conversation, get some more clarity and talk to
Okay.
the town manager and see which,
Okay,
Okay,
who's gonna win.
sounds good.
yeah, I think we should, that's a good idea. See whether,
Okay, thank you, Paul.
thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
bye,
Best
everyone.
to Lauren, take
Yeah.
good care of her.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you
Now,
all.
are you all here or are you in Cambridge?
We're we're actually in Belmont, yeah.
Belmont, sorry, Belmont, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.